Greetings, everyone. Greetings, ArtistWorks students. And we are here at the Blue Note Napa to perform the ArtistWorks Jazz All-Stars with Peter Erskine playing drums, Eric Marienthal, and George Whitty on keyboards. I'm Nathan East, and welcome to our panel here. We're going to talk about why we're here and what we're doing. You want to get us started?
Well, you know, one of the great things about being a musician, I think maybe particularly jazz musicians, is that situations like this are not uncommon. You know, getting the chance to play with your peers and with, you know, in various configurations is really kind of part of what jazz music is all about. Because it's kind of like, you know, inviting various people to a dinner party. And you know, you have various things that you talk about, but you know, depending on what each person at the party, you know, is aware of, subject matter-wise or whatever, you communicate in different sorts of ways. But if you're talking about something in particular, talking about baseball or surfing or photography or whatever, each person has their viewpoint on that. And that's one of the beauties of this kind of a thing. We're coming together, you know, for the first time as a group here in Napa. And it's just been so much fun to play what we all know how to play, but different music, in our case, all of our musical contributions, and getting, you know, each of our individual perspectives and how we shape that as a band, how we listen to each other and communicate with each other.
Peter?
If I may. So everyone brought tunes. The idea was that we would all bring our own music. As Eric mentioned, this is quite common in jazz for musicians to get together and play, the jam session being one of the standard forms of getting together. And okay, I use the word standard. We often will play standards because they're a vital part of the jazz literature, the vocabulary. And so we not only might choose these tunes because everyone will know them, but it's also a way for us to evaluate or get to know someone else's playing, their standard, their use of the language, their vocabulary, how they navigate their way through a tune. Sometimes jam sessions become a place where you're tested. We weren't interested in doing that, but in the beginning of the rehearsal, and we all had our tunes and we each passed out our songs, Nathan made a terrific suggestion, and it was in the guise of, hey, we could play this at the club. Let's just do a tune that we all know, like Cantaloupe Island. And so, okay, fine. So we just jumped right in and started playing it. And in fact, we're not playing it here at the club, but it was a great way for us just all to reshake each other's hands and kind of get to know each other and establish not only the tone of the way we would play, but you know, establish that extra level of trust between ourselves, because that's an important element in playing. So that was a nice idea, just to
Common ground,
just
meeting,
to play.
And
I was quite impressed.
well, you know, I mean, how often are we all in situations where we're kind of thrown together in a pack, and usually that's kind of like, okay, what does everybody know, you know, or whatever, and this is our first time playing together, which I can't imagine why it's taken so long, but it's been a thrill for me to listen and hear you. Yeah, so.
You know, I'll add to this too, that when you do a situation like this, part of the jazz thing is that it's depending on who you're playing with, it's just going to be different, and it should be different because you're interacting, you know, you're playing an interactive music with different people, and it's been really fun to kind of, I mean, I'm very familiar with what all three of these guys do, but we haven't played together as a band yet, and kind of tuning into the chemistry, you know, I kind of felt like the first set last night we were finding our way a little bit, but by the second set we had a pretty good handle on it. But if it was 4 different people with the same tunes and me in it, it would, you know, I would play differently. Because, you know, ideally jazz is a listening art, and if you're listening and tuned in, you're constantly adapting to what you're hearing and other people's sensibilities and sensitivities. So, you know, like Peter said, we all brought in some tunes. When you come into a situation like this, we didn't have forever to rehearse, so it's best not to bring your arrangement of the third movement of The Rite of Spring as a samba piece. See if you can bring in something that fits on 2 pages, and mine fits on 2 pages, just barely, but probably actually should be 3 pages. Because you want to make people comfortable if you can, rather than, you know, try to make everybody put on their reading glasses and you know, make it too challenging. So.
Yeah. And you know, the mechanics of putting this kind of a thing together is a really important study in itself, you know, because like we're saying, you know, this is not, like Peter said, it's not an uncommon thing it's a great thing to get a chance to get together in different configurations. That's one of the joys of this music. But, you know, to be organized in the planning stage, frankly, you know, like George mentioned, we all contributed 3 tunes to the repertoire, and we you know, send it around to each other in advance, so we weren't just walking into the rehearsal, you know, saying, oh, you know, ice cold without any familiarity with the music, and that makes it it's important because what's on the paper only says so much. You know, you can only get so much information from reading a chart. You know, you don't know exactly how it's supposed to feel, and maybe a particular voicing is different than what you might read on the chart, and so and then you come in with some good familiarity, and then we get together, and then we're playing. And even what's actually cool with the tunes that I brought in, for instance, is that we're playing them differently than another group of musicians might play them, and it's all good. It's great because it's our interpretation of that music, and that's another great thing about jazz music, is that it's just so interpretive, and there's no wrong answer. You know, how we're doing it is how we're doing it, and that's
no wrong answers, but some answers are more right than others. I think what we saw was a nice yin and yang. Every composer, and if you have a tune, you want to have a specific idea of what you're hoping for, you know, what you're hearing in your imagination for the song to be. At the same time, you need to be willing to surrender and kind of let go to a fresh interpretation and not be a control freak. You know, play it like this or play it like that musician or this other musician. I guess like anything else in life, it's just, you know, listening and being respectful and that sort of interesting and even joyful anticipation of what a musician will bring to your piece of music. And there's no greater thrill than having someone give that gift to something you've written. And so this has been like Christmas and birthdays all rolled into one, playing with you guys.
The other thing, speaking of choices, is which, you know, every day there are a million choices to make. We chose not to just come in and do standards and things. Okay, just play the real book, which I thought was an interesting choice. It says a lot about sort of everybody's integrity to not just want to do what we know we could do, blindfold, no rehearsal. And so I thought it was very conscientious to choose to do material that we'd have to learn and we'd have to shed, and I think that choice made for a much better, more interesting show, you know, and for our paying audience right here at the Blue Note. So
it's good for your brain too.
Excellent for your brain.
Absolutely.